There is a version of you that already has the money, not a fantasy version, not a someday version, a specific, living version of you that wakes up in a different nervous system, moves through the day with a different set of assumptions, and never once thinks about whether the money is coming. Because for that version of you, the money is not a question, it is a settled fact. And in the next 30 days, you are going to become that version of you without forcing a single thing, without grinding, without straining, without trying harder than you have ever tried. In fact, you are going to do it by trying less, and I am going to show you exactly why that is not a contradiction, but the entire secret. Because the strangest thing about this version of you, the thing almost nobody is willing to say out loud, is that it already exists right now, fully formed, in the only place reality is ever actually authored, which is the imagination. The distance between you and that version of you is not money, it is not time, it is not luck or connections or a better economy. The distance is a state. And a state can be entered in a single moment, which means the 30 days I am about to describe are not 30 days of building something. They are 30 days of becoming impossible to pull back out of something you can step into tonight. 30 days to make the money version of you not a goal you reach for, but the only self you have left. Let me be very precise with you, because precision is the whole game here, and almost everyone who tries to manifest money fails on a point so small they never even see it. They treat the desired self as a destination, something far away, something they are traveling toward through effort, through doing, through forcing, and the forcing is the exact thing that confirms to their own nervous system that they do not have it yet. Think about that for 1 second. Every time you strain toward the money, every time you push, every time you try hard to make it happen, you are sending a signal down into the deepest layer of yourself, the layer that does not argue and does not negotiate and simply produces. And that signal says one thing, it says, I do not have this. Because no one strains toward what they already possess. You do not try hard to have hands. You do not force yourself to have a name. The things that are truly yours you carry without effort, without thought, without the slightest tension. And the money version of you carries wealth exactly that way, effortlessly, boredly, almost, the way you carry your own name. So the first thing I need you to understand is that forcing is not neutral. Forcing is not just ineffective. Forcing is actively reverse engineering your poverty. Every strained visualization, every desperate affirmation repeated through clenched teeth, every anxious checking of your account to see if it worked yet, is a vote cast for the self that does not have it. You have been manifesting with the gas and the brake pressed down at the same time, and then wondering why the engine is screaming and the car will not move. The 30 days are about taking your foot off the brake. That is all. The wealthy self is already accelerating. It has been the whole time. You have simply been holding it in place with the tension of your own wanting. Neville Goddard said a thing that most people read 100 times and never actually hear. He said you must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not the feeling of wishing, the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Those are opposite states, opposite nervous systems. The feeling of wishing is the feeling of absence, of reaching, of the gap between here and there. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the feeling of the gap being gone. It is the relaxation that comes the moment after you get the thing, when the wanting collapses into having and your whole body settles. That settling is the state, that is what you are entering. And here is what makes it sound impossible, and is actually the easiest thing in the world. You do not have to earn that feeling by getting the money first. You produce that feeling first, and the money is what the world does in response. The feeling is the cause. The money is the shadow. Everyone has it backwards. They are chasing the shadow and wondering why it keeps the exact same distance, no matter how fast they run. Now I want to take you inside the nervous system of the version of you that already has it. Because if you cannot feel the difference, you cannot enter it. And if you can feel it even once, you will never be able to fully leave it again. The money version of you does not wake up and immediately scan for threat. The broke nervous system wakes up already braced. Before the eyes are even open, there is a tightening, a low hum of dread, a reaching for the phone to check whether the disaster arrived overnight. That bracing is not a thought. It is older than thought. It is the body assuming scarcity at a level beneath language. The money version of you wakes up into a body that is not braced. There is nothing to check. There is no disaster arriving because disaster is not the assumed background of that life. The assumed background is sufficiency. Quiet, boring, total sufficiency. And from that unbraced body, completely different actions flow. Completely different words come out of the mouth. Completely different decisions get made. And the world responds to all of it the way a mirror responds. Instantly. Without judgment. Without any delay, it can help. This is the part that disturbs people, so I am going to say it plainly. The world is not evaluating whether you deserve money. There is no ledger. There is no cosmic accountant checking whether you worked hard enough, suffered enough, earned it enough. That entire framework is the framework of the broke self, and it is the prison. The world is a mirror, and a mirror does not ask whether your reflection has earned the right to be reflected. It simply reflects whatever is in front of it exactly, without mercy and without favoritism. What is in front of it is your state, your dominant assumption about what kind of person you are and what kind of life is normal for you. Change the thing in front of the mirror, and the reflection has no choice. It is not allowed to refuse. It does not have the machinery to refuse. This is why Neville was not teaching positive thinking. Positive thinking is the broke self trying to convince itself. Assumption is the wealthy self simply being and letting the convincing happen on the outside, in the world, where it belongs. So what do these 30 days actually look like, mechanically, in a life? Day 1 does not begin with a vision board. It does not begin with a list of goals. It begins with a single act of identity theft, where you steal back the identity that was always yours. Tonight, before you sleep, in that drowsy state right before consciousness lets go, you do not picture the money. Picturing the money keeps it outside you, on a screen observed. Instead, you assume the point of view of the one who has it. You feel the bed of the wealthy version of you, which is the same bed, because the external change comes later and is the least important part. You feel the quality of relaxation in the body of the one for whom money is a non-issue. You think the last thought that version of you thinks before sleep, which is not a thought about money at all, because that self does not think about money any more than you think about oxygen. You think a thought of completion, of it being done, of there being nothing to get because everything is already had, and you fall asleep as that person, not wishing to be that person, as that person. The grammar matters more than anything else I will say tonight. You do not fall asleep wanting, you fall asleep being, and in the morning the broke nervous system will try to reclaim you. This is the most important thing to expect. Because if you do not expect it, you will think you failed. You did not fail. You are simply being pulled back toward the old set point, the old assumed background, the way a stretched spring pulls back toward its resting shape. The work of the 30 days, the only real work, is in those reclaiming moments. The moment you wake and feel the old bracing return, you do not fight it. Fighting is forcing, and forcing confirms lack. You simply notice it, and you remember gently, without strain, that this is not the nervous system you slept in, and you let the body settle back into the unbraced state. You are not building the state from scratch each time. You are returning to a state you have already occupied. Returning is effortless. Building is exhausting. The whole secret is to make it a return, and never a build. I want to give you the inner conversation piece, because Neville was relentless about this, and almost everyone skips it. All day long, beneath your awareness, you are having an inner conversation, and that conversation is the truest prayer you ever pray. Not the affirmations you say on purpose, the mutter underneath, the reflexive complaint, the automatic, unwatched commentary on your own life. When the bill comes and you feel the stomach drop, that drop is an inner conversation, and it says, "This is hard. There is never enough. Money leaves me." When you see someone with more, the flicker of comparison is an inner conversation, and it says, "That is for them and not for me." These mutterings are not describing your reality. They are commissioning it. They are the orders you place, all day, without knowing you are ordering. The wealthy version of you has a different inner conversation, and it is not affirmations either. It is simply the absence of the scarcity mutter. It is a quiet. When the bill comes, nothing drops, because nothing is threatened. When someone has more, there is no flicker, because more is not foreign to your assumed self. The 30 days are 30 days of catching the mutter and letting it dissolve, not by arguing with it, but by remembering you are no longer the one who would say it. Here is something I need to insert right now, because if you are getting value from this, and you feel something landing in your body as I describe it, then there is a specific next step for you, and I have pinned it in the top comment of this video. Go there after you finish watching. There is a short practice waiting that takes the exact state I am describing and gives you a way to enter it on command tonight without forcing. And leave one word in the comments if you intend to actually do the 30 days, just the word done, so that the version of you who already finished can reach back and pull you forward. The ones who comment are the ones who follow through. I have watched it happen for 2 years. Now let me take you deeper, because the next part is where the thing actually locks. Let me talk about what is really happening when people say the money never comes, because they are not lying. From inside their experience, they have done the visualizations. They have said the words, they have felt the feelings, and the world did not move. And they conclude the law is fake, or it works for others and not for them, or they are somehow cursed. None of that is true. What is true is that they entered the state for 10 minutes a day and lived in the opposite state for the other 23 hours and 50 minutes. The state you live in is not the state you visit. It is the state you inhabit when you are not trying. It is the state you return to the instant you stop the practice. For most people, the practice is a brief vacation from their dominant assumption, and a vacation does not change where you live. You go to the beach for a week and then you come home, and your home is unchanged, because your home was never the beach. The 30 days are about moving, not visiting. Changing your address at the level of state, so that the unbraced wealthy nervous system is the place you return to by default, and the scarcity bracing becomes the brief visit, the vacation you take, and then leave. And this is why it takes a stretch of days, and not a single night. Even though the state itself is entered in a single moment, the state is instant. The relocation is cumulative. Each night you sleep as the wealthy self, you deepen the groove. Each morning you return to the unbraced body instead of fighting it. You wear the new path a little smoother. There comes a point, usually somewhere in the 2nd or 3rd week if you are honest and consistent, where the new state stops feeling like something you are doing and starts feeling like something you are. The proof is not external first. The proof is internal first. One day you notice the bill came and nothing dropped. You notice someone had more and you felt nothing, no flicker, no comparison, just a clean neutrality. You notice you forgot to be anxious about money for an entire afternoon. These are not small things. These are the mirror beginning to turn, because the internal shift always precedes the external one, and the people who quit in the gap between the two when the inside has changed, but the outside has not caught up yet, and they mistake the lag for failure. The lag is not failure. The lag is the mirror loading the new image. You do not blow on a mirror to make it reflect faster. You simply remain in front of it as the new self, and you let it do what mirrors do. Now I have to confront the thing that is rising in you right now, because I can feel the objection forming. You are thinking, but what about action? What about the practical steps? What about actually doing the things that make money? And here is the truth that the broke self cannot accept and the wealthy self never even questions. Action is not absent from this. Action is downstream from it. The wealthy version of you takes action, constantly, but the action flows from the state instead of trying to create the state. This is the entire difference. Broke action is action taken from lack, to escape lack, and it carries the smell of lack into every room it enters, into every email, every conversation, every offer, and people feel that smell even when they cannot name it, and they pull back from it, because nobody wants to fund somebody's desperation. Wealthy action is action taken from sufficiency, as the expression of an already settled self, and it carries the smell of ease, and people lean toward that. They want to be near it. They want to give it money, because the action is not asking, it is offering from fullness. The same action, opposite source, opposite result. You will act in these 30 days, but the action will be the overflow of the state, not the desperate manufacturing of it. You do the inner work first, and the outer action becomes obvious, light and strangely effective, because for the first time it is not contaminated by the reaching. Let me show you what the forcing actually looks like from the inside, so you can catch yourself doing it, because it disguises itself as virtue. Forcing wears the mask of discipline. It wears the mask of wanting it badly enough. The culture has told you that if you just want it enough, if you just hustle hard enough, if you just grind without sleep and sacrifice everything, the money will come. And this is the single most expensive lie you have ever been sold, because it keeps you locked in the exact state that repels what you are chasing. The harder you grind from lack, the more loudly you announce to your own depths that lack is your truth. The wealthy did not all out-hustle you. Most of them will tell you, if they are honest, that the money came when they stopped clenching around it, when they relaxed into a certainty that it was handled, when they began to assume their success the way you assume the sun will rise. They are not lying to you when they say this, and they are not hiding a secret hustle. They simply moved into a different state, and the world reorganized around that state, and they cannot fully explain it because to them it just feels like who they are. You are about to make it who you are too, on purpose, in 30 days with your eyes open. So let me give you the shape of the thing across the weeks, not as a rigid schedule because rigidity is just forcing in a calendar, but as a curve. The first week is the week of the most resistance, because the old set point is strongest, and the new state feels like a costume. You will sleep as the wealthy self, and wake as the broke self, and feel like a fraud. And the fraud feeling is not a sign you are doing it wrong, it is a sign you are doing it at all. Every single person who has ever changed their state has walked through the costume phase. The costume becomes the skin. The second week is the week of the strange quiet, where you start catching the scarcity mutter before it finishes, where the bracing in the morning is a little less automatic, where you have small moments of forgetting to worry. The third week is where the internal proof starts arriving, the neutrality, the unbothered feeling, the spontaneous ease, and where, if you are paying attention, the first external coincidences begin. The unexpected message, the opportunity that arrives at an odd angle, the money that shows up from a direction you were not watching. And the fourth week is where it stops being a practice and starts being a fact, where the wealthy state is simply where you live, and the question of whether the law is working dissolves, because you are no longer outside the result looking in, you are inside it looking out. I need to warn you about the two places people fall off because, forewarned, you will not fall. The first place is the costume week, where the fraud feeling convinces them they are lying to themselves, and they quit to go back to being honest, not realizing that the broke self was never more honest. It was only more familiar. Familiar is not the same as true. The broke self is a habit, not a truth, and you are allowed to break a habit. The second place is the lag, the gap in the third week where the inside has shifted, but the outside has not visibly moved, and the old impatience returns and whispers that it is not working, and they go back to forcing, and the forcing reintroduces the lack, and they reset themselves to zero, and then they tell everyone the law is fake. Do not be that person. When the lag comes, and it will come, you do nothing. You remain. You stay in the state not to make the money come, because making it come is forcing, but because the state is simply who you are now, and there is nowhere else to go. The money is not the goal you are reaching for anymore. The state is the home you already live in. The money is just the mail that eventually arrives at the address. And here is the deepest thing I can give you, the thing underneath all the technique. You do not manifest money. You manifest a self, and the money is one of the things that self carries. This is why chasing the money directly never works, because money is not a thing the universe hands out. It is a thing a certain kind of self naturally has, the way a certain kind of tree naturally has a certain kind of fruit. You have been trying to glue fruit onto a tree that does not grow it. The 30 days do not glue money onto your life. They change the tree. They change the kind of self you are at the level of assumption, and a self that assumes wealth produces wealth, the way a healthy tree produces fruit, without effort, without forcing, simply as the natural expression of what it is. Stop trying to get the fruit. Become the tree that cannot help but grow it. That is the entire teaching. Everything else is detail. So tonight, you begin, not by wanting it more, by wanting it less, in the precise sense that you stop reaching for it and start assuming it. Tonight, in the drowsy state before sleep, you become the version of you for whom the money is already a settled, boring fact, and you fall asleep as that one, and in the morning you return to that one each time the old self tries to reclaim you, and you do this for 30 nights. And somewhere in there the return stops being a practice and becomes simply where you wake up. You are not 30 days away from the money. You are one assumption away from the self that has it, and 30 days away from that assumption becoming so deep it cannot be shaken loose. The version of you that already has it has been waiting this whole time, not far away, not in the future, but one state away, one breath away, one act of quiet assumption away. Step into it tonight, and then, simply, do not step back out. Let me get even more concrete about the nights. because the nights are the engine and everything else is decoration. The state you sleep in is the state that prints. Neville called the drowsy edge before sleep the state akin to sleep, and he was not being poetic, he was being technical. There is a doorway every single night, a few minutes wide, where the conscious mind has loosened its grip, and the deeper mind is open and receiving, and whatever self you occupy in that doorway gets impressed into the layer that produces your reality. Most people walk through that doorway every night carrying the broke self. They lie down replaying the day's shortages, rehearsing tomorrow's threats, mentally counting what they do not have, and they fall asleep as the one who lacks, and they wonder why they wake into a world of lack. They are using the most powerful tool they own to carve their cage deeper every night, with perfect consistency. You are going to use the same doorway in the opposite direction. You are going to walk through it carrying the self that already has it, and you are going to do it every night for 30 nights, and the layer that produces your reality is going to start producing a different one, because you finally started feeding it a different self. So here is the night step by step, and notice how little forcing is in it. You lie down. You do not begin with money. You begin by letting the body go heavy, releasing the day, sinking toward the drowsy edge. You let the breath slow on its own. You are not performing relaxation, you are simply allowing it, the way you allow sleep every night without technique. And as you approach that drowsy edge, you gently assume a single scene, a short scene, the shortest possible scene that implies the wealth is already yours. Not a movie of getting rich. A single still moment that could only be true if it had already happened. Maybe it is the feeling of someone congratulating you, and you feeling no surprise at all, because of course, it was always going to be this way. Maybe it is the simple feeling of signing your name to something that the broke you could never afford, and signing it casually, boredly, the way you sign for a coffee. Maybe it is just lying in this exact bed, feeling the specific, full-bodied relaxation of someone for whom money has stopped being a problem. You pick one, you make it short, and you do not watch it from the outside. You step inside it and feel it from the first person, from within your own body, looking out through your own eyes, and you let the feeling of it being real and already done wash through you. And then you let it loop, gently, softly, the way a song you love loops in your head without effort. You feel it, you release, you feel it again, you drift, and you fall asleep inside it. That is the whole night. It takes minutes. It requires no strain. And it is the single most consequential thing you will do all day. Now the days. The days are not where the printing happens, but the days are where you protect the print from being smudged. Through the day, you are not trying to manifest. You are simply refusing to manifest the opposite. You catch the scarcity mutter and you let it dissolve. You catch the bracing and you soften it. You catch yourself reaching, straining, checking, refreshing, and you gently stop, not with force but with remembering. You remember who you slept as. And when the world presents you with evidence of lack, and it will, because the lag means the old reality is still arriving for a while, you do not react to the evidence as if it were the verdict. The old bank balance is not a verdict, it is an echo. It is the mail from a self you already stopped being, still arriving at the address because the post office is slow. You do not let yesterday's echo dictate today's assumption. You feel the old self try to flinch at the number, and you let the flinch pass, and you remain the one for whom this is already handled. This is the discipline of the days. Not affirmations, not forcing positivity, simply declining to re-sign the lease on the broke self every time the world tempts you to. And there is one more tool, and Neville called it revision, and it might be the most powerful of all for money specifically. At the end of each day, before the night practice, you take any moment from that day where you reacted from lack, where you felt the drop, where you spoke or thought from poverty, and you replay it in your imagination, the way the wealthy self would have lived it. You do not beat yourself up for the original reaction, you simply revise it. You live the moment as the one who had no fear around money, who felt no drop, who responded from sufficiency. You are not lying about the past, you are editing the self that the past was building, because every unrevised moment of lack is a moment that reinforced the broke self, and every revised moment quietly dismantles it. You go back through the day, and you pull the broke self's signature off of every document it tried to sign in your name. And then you sleep as the wealthy self. Revise the day, then sleep as the one who has arrived. Do that for 30 days, and the self that lack was building simply stops getting built, and the self you are choosing gets built in its place, night after night, until it is the only self left standing. I know a part of you is still asking how you will know it is working, and I want to take that question away from you, because the question itself is a form of forcing. Asking whether it is working is checking the mirror to see if it reflected yet, and the checking is the reaching, and the reaching is the lack. The wealthy self does not ask whether it is working. The wealthy self does not monitor the universe for proof, because it is not in a state of doubt that requires proof. It simply assumes and lives, and the proof arrives as a byproduct it was not even watching for. So your job is not to track the results. Your job is to so fully occupy the state that you forget to track the results. And the day you genuinely forget to check whether it is working is usually the day it visibly begins to. Stop auditing the universe. Occupy the self. The audit is the broke self's habit. Let it go with everything else and understand what you are really doing across these 30 days. Underneath all the mechanics, you are not convincing the universe to give you something. You are withdrawing your consent from a self you never had to be. The broke self was never the truth of you. It was a state you were handed, by a family, by a culture, by years of repeated assumption that you never chose on purpose. You inherited a nervous system braced for scarcity, and you called it reality, but it was only a habit wearing reality's clothes. The 30 days are 30 days of withdrawing your signature from that inherited self, one night, one revision, one softened flinch at a time, and signing instead, over and over, the self that was always available, the one that assumes sufficiency the way it assumes its own name. You are not adding money to your life. You are subtracting a self that could not hold it, and what remains, naturally, effortlessly, is the self that money belongs to. The fruit was never the problem. The tree was never broken. You were simply standing as the wrong tree. Stand as the right one, every night, for 30 nights, and let the season do what seasons do. And do not make the mistake of thinking 30 is a magic number, as if the universe is counting your nights and will release the funds on day 31. There is no counter. 30 is simply long enough for the new state to stop being a costume and start being your skin. Long enough for the groove to wear deep enough that you fall back into the wealthy self by default instead of climbing into it on purpose. For some, it locks in sooner. For some, it takes a little longer. The number is not the point. The relocation is the point. You are moving house at the level of identity, and you stay in the new house not for 30 days but permanently, because it was always your house. You simply had not lived in it yet. 30 days is just how long it takes to unpack and stop reaching for the door of the old one. After that, there is no going back. Not because it is forbidden, but because you will no longer be able to remember why you ever lived braced. If this reached something real in you, the practice is waiting in the pinned comment, and it will give you the exact way to enter this state on command tonight without a single ounce of forcing. Comment the word done if you are starting the 30 days, so the future you who finished can reach back through these comments and pull the present you forward. Tell me in the comments which version of you is waking up tomorrow, the one who braces or the one who has already arrived. I read them. And the self you describe in that comment is the self you are choosing. So choose the one that already has it. It is closer than you think.